Okay, so welcome if those of you that are joining me live. I'm Dr. Veronica, for those of you that may not know me. And I wanted to really spend a little bit of time with you today. And we are possibly in what is now the third, or at least the beginning of the third month of the year. So I just want you, maybe if you haven't already, get yourself a something to drink. Like I'm a coffee connoisseur. I love coffee. I drink coffee in the morning. I have coffee later in the afternoon, and I probably have coffee after dinner, maybe even before bed, right? I can do that. I can drink coffee and go directly to sleep. So for those of you that are like me, grab your coffee. If you're not a coffee person, hey, there's tea, and there's all kinds of wonderful teas. I have lots of friends that prefer tea to coffee. So if tea is your thing, get tea. And maybe you're not either one of those and you want to sip water with me, that's fine too, or any other beverage of your choice. I'm glad you're here. There's so much for us to talk about. There's so much to check in and really discuss with you. And I could not be more honored by your presence today. So grab your drink, maybe get a notebook, right? I'm always kind of riffing, I'm always throwing something out that I hope is incredibly valuable to people who are endeavoring to become the best version of themselves. Like, I'm that person that has a huge respect for human potential. And not only do I have a respect for human potential, I have a life dedicated to enhancing and helping people realize that incredible potential. So, if I haven't said it already, I am so glad you are here. So, if you got your coffee, maybe you got your notebook, maybe it's a perfect time to text a friend. Like, just say, you know what, Dr. V is on, and I know that she's going to say something that's going to be important for us. It's going to be a lifeline. It's going to be a place we can step to step from, to grow toward. So maybe text somebody and say, you know what, you don't want to miss this. I just think life is better in relationship. Life is better in community. And so often we try to live our lives in kind of our own vacuum. And life is so much better spent in meaningful relationships. And honestly, if you're a person that's really endeavoring to find purpose, purpose is never lived outside of the company of people and community. And so I want to make us mindful of that. For so long, I think I wanted destiny and things like purpose, and you kind of think of them in an independent idea, right? You think of them as something I get to do, as something I get to become, but really it's a relational aspect to things like purpose. It is truly communal, right? You can't live out purpose if you don't have a community to contribute it toward or to give it to, right? So I'm so glad you are here. So I wanted to just stop for a minute. Like, it is March 1, and I don't know about you, but I blinked and we've lost 2 months already. So I wanted to check in and see, how are you doing? It's a new year, and sometimes we make the assumption that a new year means I'm going to be new, things are going to be new, I'm going to have new opportunities, new possibilities, and that's not always quite the way things go. So I wanted to just pause for a minute and check in on you and see how your new year is gone. Like, have you hit those targets for yourself that you maybe set at the beginning of the year? Like, if you're that person that is like, I'm all about goals, or some level of intentionality, like, how have you done with that? How are you doing with that? And I think they're important questions, right? Because we have to be able to have a sense of where we are in our journey, where we are in this kind of progressive nature to all things us. But for me, I had this one thought, and I thought, man, I really want to share this thought. What if I asked you, what is the single most maybe important contributing factor to like your behavior, to your actions, to your choices, to your decision making, ultimately to your performance, right? For some of us, maybe even on a spiritual note, like to destiny. What do you think your most, like, what is the thing that weighs the heaviest, right? Into those ideas of action and behavior and choice and decision and experience and ultimately performance and destiny. Like, what is that? Because people are so desperate to get to things like, how do I perform better? How do I move into promotability? How do I become, what I'm here for, and all those things. But would it surprise you if I said that the greatest contributing factor to everything you will ever do, every decision you will ever make, every action you will ever take, every experience you will ever have, the greatest contributing factor to that is something we call identity, like your sense of self. I wish I could tell you how important this is. Like, we act out of a certain sense of self. We operate out of an ideal we have of ourselves. We call that an identity. And honestly, when you think about it, like it is the one thing that either moves you towards certain things or it's the one thing that keeps you from doing certain things, right? It's that sense of self. Like it's very difficult to disrespect ourselves when we respect ourselves. Then we don't find ourselves doing things that are kind of a disrespectful nature, right? Because we have self-respect and that allows us to govern ourselves in a way that isn't disrespectful. So when you think about the power of identity, like there is nothing like it. It is the supreme key, the master key to everything we'll ever do, everything we'll ever accomplish. And I think what's hard about that is so many of us don't really know who we are. Like, I mean, that journey, it's just always evolving. But I think that we have moments where you and I have been guilty of borrowing another person's identity, right? And, like in the world of, legal and illegal things, it would be considered identity theft. And we know what that's like if you ever had somebody grab your debit card and make charges on it. You know what it's like when people assume your identity for their benefit. Well, I think we do things like that when we're not sure of who we are. We assume another person's identity, especially if we feel as though it is better to be them than to be me, right? So if it's easier for me to be you, act like you, so that I can be accepted, so I can be appreciated, so I can belong, whatever it is, right? Then we typically have a little bit of identity theft while we're trying to figure out who we are. And then you and I move through lanes, right, where we have these identity crises. I think identity crises are the most beautiful gifts. I know they don't feel like gifts, but they're the moments where our self doesn't allow us to get stuck emulating someone else, right? That's where the part of us, that really knows who we are and the value that we have doesn't allow us to stop short of trying to be someone else or arrive at someone else's value through some other means. So a crisis is important because it doesn't let you settle for someone that you're not. It makes you have to look yourself in the mirror and find the authentic you. So I love crisis. And they don't always have to be so drastic, like where you're in the bed curled up, with a pint of ice cream, or, you're considering some harmful ideas. Like crisis can be really subtle, right? But really what it means is I am in a kind of an examination mode. I'm examining all things that pertain to me. I'm looking at everything, all my values, what I think about myself, how I feel about myself, what it's like to experience myself, what others have said about experiencing me. Like really, it's just the examination, right? So a crisis doesn't have to be, really extreme, and it can be incredibly subtle where we're just musing, right? We're just musing over what does it feel like to be me? What do I like about being me? What have I appreciated about myself? So I think the crisis is an important part of the identity development. So as I thought about this, I wanted to leave you with this thought today. So we do move from this idea of identity theft, borrowing from other people what we think is important. And then we move into the crisis mode where we're kind of examining ourselves and really attempting to sort through all the pieces that maybe aren't authentically me, right? Because we have a bit of a roaming sense of self. You know what I mean when I say roaming sense of self? Right? Have you ever been out of town and your phone goes on roaming? Well, a roaming sense of self is where we gain, right, some sense of ourself through alternate means, right? Other people, consensus, other people's ideas of us, expectations of us. And what happens is it can be something really simple, like somebody can say, you are funny, right? And then you determine to integrate that into, oh, well, that's who I am. I must be funny. And then you say, I am, right? I am funny. And so then you integrate the idea of funniness, and then you personify or embody what it means to be funny, even if that's not authentically who you are, right? So somebody says something, we integrate and personify. Somebody else says something, we integrate and embody. You get it? So we have this roaming sense of self. It depends on where we are, who we are. Depends on where we are, who we are. That's ultimately how we want to be. So what I want to have you think about as we're moving forward is the key to identity realization, right? Which is moving through all these components we talked about, is really recognizing your inherent value, which is different from what you do, from the degrees you've achieved, from the jobs you have, from the roles you play. Your inherent value. That's the part of you that is, it just surrounds your beingness. It doesn't have anything to do with what you do or what people think about what you do. Well, our identity begins there. Our true sense of self begins with the inherent realization of your own value, right? It's the recognition that I am valuable, apart from anything I am, apart from anything I may do, apart from anything anyone may say. It's recognizing the inherent value that's in you. That's my gift for you today. I want you to walk in that inherent realization that you are valuable apart from anything, apart from any idea, apart from any experience. So I want to make you aware of a couple things. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to join my community, exclusive community. It's in the Mighty Network. We do amazing things there. We're building an amazing community of people, like-minded people, and maybe some not so like-minded, that really endeavor to really realize their fullest potential, optimize that potential. Maybe Brewing Your Best Self is our incredible course with live coaching. Maybe that's a place you benefit from. But maybe you're one of those people like me that's on the side of the spiritual, and we're really seeking how we become the best version of ourselves, understanding that we are spirit. Well, you should join us for our newest school. The newest arm of our school is called Divine Spark Studio. If you haven't heard, you want to check that out. We meet every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So just a few things to make you aware of. If you're on that journey, meet us for Divine Spark Studio, 10 a.m. on Saturdays, that's Central. If you're looking for a way to exacerbate that potential, you want brewing brilliance, and you have coaching time with a group, and obviously there's private coaching available as well. So hopefully something I said today sent you one step closer to the optimization of who you really are. I bless you. I encourage you to be absolutely your most authentic self. This has been Dr. V. I'll see you next time.